Hello, America. Today we're going to talk about a lawsuit based on climate change, demands of ideological purity, cutting VA caregiver benefits, profiles in history, and more. So sit back, buckle up, and hang on because we're just getting started.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
You know what time it is, so sit back and get ready for the Stafford Voice, your dose of conservative in a world of liberal.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, how you doing? I'm your host, Daniel Stafford, and you're listening to the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. And look, I want to remind you that there are so many ways to listen, whether it's, Spreaker or iHeartRadio or YouTube or Facebook Live right now. I want to remind you, wherever you're at, set that channel as a favorite, whatever you have to do so you don't get left behind. If for some strange, crazy reason you miss the show, just sit tight. I want to remind you there's no need to panic because I've got you. In the case you aren't already following on the social medias, you can find me over on the Twitters or the Gabs at Stafford Voice, or you can find me on Grassfire, Facebook, Instagram, a multiple of other social sites of your choosing. Wherever you're at, just search for the Stafford Voice, and we're probably there. Reach out to me, let me know, and let's connect. Let's talk about things. I want to know what's important to you. I'm seeing people join the chat as we get things going. We got a couple of people joining us over on the YouTube side. We've got Slick from Rebel Road Tactical and Tina as well. Hey, how you doing? We've also got Kentucky Ron. He's joined us. Good evening, campers, he says. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. I need your guys' motivation tonight. I'm just not feeling it. There's just a load of crap and BS. It's like we're living in a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah right now. It is beyond ridiculous. Let's just put it that way. Let me give you a bit of an update. Roxanne and I, my wife, we are getting ready to sign up to do our first 5K ever. I personally am super excited. If you follow me on Instagram and a couple of other places, you'll see that I've tweeted out my progress. I like where I'm at. I'm getting where I want to be as far as my goal. It's a pretty lofty goal, attainable nonetheless. Anyway, super excited. So that's coming up in June, I believe. June 10th is the date. So if you want to put that on your calendar, you can support us between now and then. Super excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. The cause that will be supported for this one will be hospice. And as you know, when my mother was going through cancer, there towards the very end of her life, we did use hospice services, and I know of quite a few other individuals who have used the services of hospice. So we're going to use this to kind of kickstart some community outreach, I guess, where we get to go out and do stuff like this and be out there in the community and help support causes. And we'll take you along with us. You'll see it's going to be a lot of fun. What is not fun is, as I was saying earlier, we're living in almost a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah. We have hypersexualized things in the world where we now want to promote we want to put a shield up whenever we talk about genital mutilation on young girls. We don't really want to talk about that. It's taboo because, well, it's part of their religion. It's what they do. It's okay. We want to promote Bill Nye, the not-so-science guy, as he starts his new series, and has on some performers hypersexualizing how they're giving their vagina a voice. No. Well, the only way we can combat these things is with facts. And, aside from the fact that, excuse me, I got something in my eye. At what point do we stop hypersexualizing everything? Where does it start? Does it start at school? Does it start at home? I mean, does it start at church? Where, at the grocery store? I don't know. I'm interested to know your guys' input on that, and maybe we'll cover that in another topic in the near future. And maybe that's kind of setting things up for another show, is the hypersexualization of issues today. And I really don't want to cover that too much because we've got a list of things to cover tonight. And first on the agenda, as I was teasing earlier, talking about a lawsuit based on climate change. And Bill, not-so-science guy, is a big proponent of climate change and supporting the whole idea that, look, weather happens, whether we want it to happen or not. I mean, I live here smack dab in Kansas, right here in the middle of the United States, quote unquote Tornado Alley. I mean, we made a movie about it. The Wizard of Oz, hello, right on the Wicked Witch. And do we want to deny that stuff happens? No, it happens. It's science. Science proves that a tornado happens. But is that tornado caused because we have a power plant down the road and it's putting out carbon emissions? No. Nature happens. Weather happens. And I'll agree, Tina. C4 is good. Bullets, you really can't stop bullets. But I want to bring up this climate change issue because, and here's where here is a fine line where we have activism. Look, weather happens everywhere, Tina. Tina's over in the chat room talking this up about how weather happens. And I completely agree. Everywhere in the world, even over in North Korea, it gets hot, gets cold. It's not because they have power plants. I'll tell you that much. Anyway. But the idea of climate change. And I'm kind of ticked off about this whole stupid issue because there's a liberal troll over on the Twitters. He's blocked on Facebook. I had to block him a long time ago, and I'm almost willing to and ready to block him over on the Twitters. But I want to keep in contact with him because he's a fantastic photographer. He's fantastic. But a couple screws loose in some places. The guy can take a photo. I wish one of these days I want to go out with him and learn a couple of things, how to frame a shot and stuff like that, because he's good. I've almost purchased one or two of his photos. They're that good, and put them up here in the studio. But the issue, and this kind of goes along with it. Here's the issue. Avery McRae is passionate about the environment for half a lifetime. She's been worried about climate change since kindergarten. Yeah, that's right. She's 11 years old. And trust me, she's getting really serious about this. She signed on to sue President Trump and the U.S. government. Quoting, yes, you guys can hear the cat. Apparently she's not happy about climate change either. Cats for climate change. Hashtag cats for weather. Anyway, okay, so where do we leave off? Oh, okay. So let's quote Avery McRae. Again, she's 11 years old. Trump is not doing anything to help stop climate change. Look, Trump is not God, okay? He can't stop the weather. He can't part the Red Sea. She goes on to say, he's a climate change denier. Well, I don't think he denies that the climate changes. I mean, weather happens. It's science. It's proven. Today it was like 70. Tomorrow it's going to be a different degree. It could be in the 50s. It could rain tomorrow. Is that climate change? Technically, yes. Can we control it? No. He's a climate change denier, and we're going to prove that to the world. Okay, great. Whatever. McRae is one of 21 students suing the government, claiming it is violating their constitutional right to a healthy planet by not doing enough to limit the use of fossil fuels. Yeah, but those fossil fuels, you see, those fossil fuels are the ones that power the power plant and give this little 11-year-old power to light her house and power her cell phone and a myriad of other things. But let's talk about this issue of whether it is what did she say again? Violating her constitutional right. And let me get into this whole liberal troll over on Twitter. He's been hounding me for a day and a half, wanting a response in reference to him saying that it's in the preamble. Okay. What does the preamble say? Got it right here. My handy-dandy little pocket notebook here. Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. If I remember correctly, one of his tweets back to me was something about the pursuit of happiness. Now, the pursuit of happiness is not in the Constitution of the United States. Rather, it's in the Declaration of Independence. And refill, it's okay if you're late. It's fine. I'm glad you joined us. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, and by the way, share with us some of your thoughts on the barbecue sauce that you got, being April's contest winner, official contest winner for April. I've got something really, really special for you guys coming up in May. So going to be a really, really special prize. So it's not in the preamble of the Constitution that says anything about the pursuit of happiness. So Liberal Troll 0 TSV1. Okay, so even if we wanted to stick to that, even if we want to stick to the idea that it's in, oh, good heavens, there it is, in the preamble. Promote the general welfare. That has nothing to do with climate change. You see, the whole hoax behind climate change is just this whole idea that we can tax companies. That's right, tax a company, so the government, the liberal side of government, can collect more money to spend on frivolous crap that does absolutely nothing to promote the general welfare or secure the blessings of liberty. Okay, so Liberal Troll 0, TSV 2. Do I need to continue? No. I think point is made. I'm not going to give him any more attention. I've already given him way more than I wanted to. Anyway, he's a fantastic photographer. I'll give him that. Okay, so let's continue. McCrae, let's see, she signed on, one of 21 students. I'm really trying to figure, is this like a, was this a school project that they started? The case originally filed in Oregon in 2015. Let me get this straight. It's President Trump's fault because of something that happened in 2015? What? What? No! No! He wasn't the president in 2015. That was, your buddy and pal, President Barack Obama. But we want to blame Trump because he's the one in office. And, well, he's not doing anything to stop the clouds from forming and parting the Red Seas and controlling the ebbs and the flows of the tides. And, oh, wait, that was Barack Obama's acceptance speech about how he was going to control the ebbs and the flow. Damn it! Liberals get knocked down again! Son of a... Okay, let's continue. This 11... I don't know what they're putting in the water in Oregon, but it sounds a lot like we're memorizing talking points instead of actually memorizing stuff that's in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or any fact at all about a founding father. This is coming from an 11-year-old. I know quite a few 11-year-olds. I taught 11-year-olds for, 2 years at church? There's some smart kids, okay? We've got some 3-year-olds right now that we're teaching that blow my mind. Seriously. Yeah, they ask questions that I would never expect a 3-year-old to ask. One of them was talking about marriage and why this and that. I'm like, you're 3. Shh. Listen, we got to talk about this. Okay. So again, 11-year-old. This is according to 11-year-olds. It's a disgrace that the government has put its citizens and its younger generation into a position where we have to go to court. Now, I need to note that the Justice Department tried to get it thrown out, but instead, in November, again, when Obama was president, the U.S. District Court Judge Ann Aiken agreed to hear it. Interesting. I wonder why. Maybe she's a liberal judge. Knock one down. Okay. Liberalism is a mental disorder. That's all I want to say. It's sad. It really, really is. I was trying to think. There was something I wanted to say about... Oh, now, I was going to try and relate it to Alex Jones, and it was... We were going to... I'm not going to do that. Nope. So, well, let's just move on. By the way, Tina, thanks for sharing it and inviting some friends to come over on the Facebooks. As you guys know, instead of only streaming here on YouTube, we're also streaming live on Facebook. Really, really excited, and this is in part because you guys have really pushed it to that point, and so we're trying to deliver. Okay. By the way, Slick, I'm praying for you, brother. We got to get you back in the tip-top shape. Guys, you get friends, family. You guys know you guys are family. So here's what I need. I want to ask you guys a personal favor, and that is to put some prayers out for Slick. I didn't know this until the other day, but he is going through some asthma stuff, and I hope he doesn't bother me talking. He's not bothered by me asking you guys this, but will you guys please pray for a quick recovery for Slick? He's working his tail end off over at Rebel Road Tactical, and I know this because the other day I reached out to him, and he was talking about how he's only got 3 more holsters to make, and told him to get back to work, and within the next hour he was posting pictures, and the guy's working his tail end off, and he just sent a message over on the YouTube that breathing treatment number 1 was in the books. So congrats, but we're still keeping you guys in our prayers. Okay, where are we at? Oh yeah, let's continue with some of this liberal ideology, shall we? And this falls right in line with the whole liberal ideology type thing where it's our way or the highway. Sorry, I was trying to keep up with the chats. I got this really cool chat program where it takes both of the chats from Facebook and YouTube, and it makes it really difficult for me to actually type back to anybody. But I see your comments, and that's how I try and respond back that way. And I know there's a little bit of a delay, but I'm trying. I'm working with what I got here, okay? Okay. Speaking of working with what they got, this new the new chair guy. Well, Refill, I get that. He says that YouTube should always be the top priority. But you got to remember that there are people on Facebook that, you know, they live and die by Facebook. So let's go where they're at. You know, that's what we're doing. We don't want people to have to go 100 different places or come from 100 different places to one place. We want to be where they're at to make it easier on them. And quite frankly, look, this isn't about the money at all. I mean, sure, it takes money to do this, but if we stretch ourselves to get out there and it creates some buzz, and then we get them to understand that we want them to go to the YouTube side, then that's something further down the road. Anyway, apparently Kentucky Ron's got some asthma issues as well. Man, Ron, I'm praying for you too, brother. Okay, so this new DNC chair, Tom Perez. I don't know much about the guy, but I don't like him already. Why? Here, this article comes from Politistic from the other day by Matthew Burke. If you guys don't follow Matthew Burke on Twitter, you should. Anyway, he goes on to say that Tom Perez, the new radical communist chairman of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, has announced that all future Democrat Party candidates must be in favor of women murdering their babies. So he goes on to say that Huffington Post was reporting on this on Saturday, that this is a first for the Democrat Party, which ironically prides itself on choice, for a head of the DNC to, quote, demand ideological purity when it comes to killing babies. So here's what Perez actually says. We're going to quote him and really try and understand this. Every Democrat, like every American, should support a woman's right to make her own choices. Okay? So far, I'm with you. About her body and her health. Okay? That is not negotiable and should not change city by city or state by state. At a time when women's rights are under assault, I don't think women's rights are under assault from the White House, but apparently Perez thinks so. Women's rights are under assault from the White House, the Republican Congress, and in states across the country. We must speak up for this principle as loudly as ever and with one voice. And this was in reference to how Democrats need to be anti-life, and that's kind of how Matthew Burke plays on this, is how the Democrats are the party of anti-life, whereas Republicans and various other parties that are out there are pro-life. And a lot of this is because the Democrat Party really, really pushes the agenda for this quote-unquote pro-choice movement. And it's... Look, this is really... This is borderline scary, where the head of a party says, if you're not pro-choice, we don't want you. And when I saw this, I was like, seriously? I don't get that at all. Here, let me make sure. Okay. Last week, we talked with J.D. Rucker from the Federalists Party, and how when you the idea is that we need to quit worrying and quit focusing about a letter behind or in front of a name, and we really need to focus on the person and what they stand for. Now, if you want to support someone who says it's okay to stick forceps up a woman and, chop the baby up, suck it out with the shop vac, if you agree with that, I'm sorry, but maybe you need to seek psychological help. But then by all means, support that candidate that has that view. But to blindly follow a party solely because they are the quote-unquote pro-choice party. Now, I mean, we're not even going to get into the whole idea that of Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood and the history behind, why she was a real proponent for abortion. We're not going to get into that. I know maybe we've wanted to talk about that in the past, and maybe we will at a future show. But seriously, you're tuning out over half of a country because they don't agree with the idea of ripping a fetus out of a womb. Now, this comes from the party who is so pro-science that they can't accept the fact, based off of science, that it's a life in the womb. Science will say it all the time, and I don't understand why people like Bill Not So Science, because he's got a degree in engineering, Nye, is out there talking about how science settles things and being pro-LGBTQ, MNMP type, whatever. There's enough letters in the alphabet to come up with your own problems. Science, biology, biology, which is a science will prove that genetically you're a male or you're a female. You can't change it. You can't. And this goes back to something that we talked about at a previous on a previous show, where we talked about needing to come together into that gray area. And it goes along with something that President Reagan talked about. And that is agreeing on, if you agree with 80% of the things, then maybe that 20% that you don't agree with, we can set off to the side and really focus on that 80%. Somewhere in that gray area is that 80%. Now, you've just alienated over half of the voting population just because they're pro-life. I don't really know exactly how to word this, but that's evil at its finest. We're in a time period right now where there are way too many evil forces at play, and we've really got to narrow down and focus on major issues. We're on the brink of World War III. Whether you want to argue it or not, we are on the brink of a financial collapse. And we're worried about pushing the entire issue of pro-life, pro-choice, whatever. There's bigger fish to fry than focusing on this and making that one of your highest agenda issues. Now, obviously, it's the party of evil, because if you remember right, they booed God 3 times at their national convention. Okie dokie. I'm checking the time. And Tina, I am pro-life as well. I don't know of any other way to put it other than that. Really, there's 1 or 2 minor exceptions where it could be allowed, but it's very, very narrow. That's all I'm going to say. That's my view. Again, I want to work towards that gray area. You got those people that are on the far right, and then you got those on the far left, but somewhere in the middle is where we want to be. You know, there's 2 sides to every story. 3 sides to every story. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. 3 sides to every story. Okay? You got this side over here, and somewhere in the middle is the truth and where you need to be. Oh, that's right, Refill. Thanks for that. They did find, we've been following that story, and not so good per se, but if you follow us on Twitter, you'll know that we tried to keep up with the story about Elizabeth Thomas. They did find her. She's safe. I'm glad. I don't know any more than that. I know that there needs to be some other issues discussed, but that needs to be left to some doctors, some psychological professionals. Okay, let's move on to our... You know what? This one's just going to tick me off. I may have to save this one. I don't want to talk about that one tonight. Talking about cutting VA caregiver benefits. That was the story. Tell you what, I will post over on the staffordvoice.com about that some point this week. Also, I've got another really, really cool post that will be coming out at some point this week, and I really want you guys to check it out. Maybe it's going to be a big teaser. Maybe we're going to wind up working it into a series once a month here for the show. I just saw an email notification pop up from the particular individual that I kind of reached out to about something, and we've talked for the last week or so. I've really gotten to like this guy and like what they're doing over on Instagram. So I'll tell you what. I know I've asked a couple of things of you so far this week, or tonight, wow. Okay, let's get focused. Here's what I want you to do. If you're on Instagram, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Instagram, not right now, but I want you to head over to Instagram at some point and look up at Blood and Virtue. That's their handle, at that little at symbol, whatever you call it. Blood and Virtue, all one word, Blood and Virtue. Look them up, follow them, let them know that you heard it here, and follow them. I'll talk more about them later. That's as much of a teaser of that as I want to go into right now. But it's really, really cool. You guys are going to absolutely love it. Love it. Okay, I see that Army John has joined us, and apparently he's on the road again. He's heading home from work, just checked in. He's over on the Facebooks. I guess him and... See, that's the thing, is we got to figure out if you're in the chat room, whether it's on the YouTube side or the Facebook side, would you be okay with having an app on your phone that you would be able to chat with people from the show that watch the show, or throughout the week as we talk about other stories and issues that you guys find? Would you guys be willing to download an app on your phone to where we can stay way more engaged? If you are, let me know and I'll get it set up. I've been kind of keeping it on the back burners, trying to see if it's really, really the direction that I want to take things. But I don't like the idea that I've got some people over on Facebook and some people on YouTube, and where some of the people on Facebook like chatting with those in the YouTube. Refill says he'd be willing to. I really want to know from you guys. Would you be willing to do that in order to... And you would not be able to use the app to listen to the show, or watch, that is. But you would be able to have the show up on your screen, whether you are sending it to your big screen, like I know some of you do, or you're watching on a mobile device, but you... like a laptop or a tablet, but you would be able to have your phone right there and one chat room and chat with everybody else. It would be a little more fancy of a chat room. I don't know. I'm interested. And maybe we can put together, I know a lot of you guys are on Twitter, maybe we could just put together a Twitter group to talk about things, but... I'm really, really interested to know what you guys think about that. Okay, we really need to get on with the show. I'm seeing the time, and I'll tell you what, let me wet the whistle, because terribly sorry about that. But I want to get into your favorite segment and mine. Profiles in History. It was April 23rd, 1775, and the elite of Philadelphia had gathered to pay their respects to the patron saint of Britain. A motto on the wall reflected the spirit of those gathered: reconciliation. Then, a messenger burst into the tavern with the news that 4 days earlier the British had engaged in battles with colonists at Lexington and Concord. As you might expect, pandemonium broke out as many loyalists ran for the door. Legend says that he was left alone in the room at the head of the table, glass raised in a toast that was never finished. He knew what this meant. It was war. Robert Morris was born in Liverpool, England, on January 31st, 1734. Little is known of his mother, but his maternal grandmother raised him from childhood. His father moved to America and did well for himself in the tobacco trade in Maryland. When Robert was 13, his father sent for him to come to America, only to promptly be sent off to Philadelphia for school. In a freak accident in July 1750, Morris's father was killed while leaving a dinner party aboard a merchant ship that had just come into port. In salute, the ship fired its cannon and the paper wad from the cannon hit Morris's father in the shoulder, dying a short time later from blood poisoning. Now, an orphan in a new country, Charles Willing, one of the most successful merchants in Philadelphia, took Robert on as an apprentice clerk. After Willing died, Morris helped run the company with Willing's son, Thomas. Their partnership lasted for close to 4 decades. While Thomas took the more political roles in society, Morris managed the business. Politics didn't interest him. Yet. Morris finally got around to building a family at the age of 35. His wife, Mary White, was 19 when they were married on March 2nd, 1769. After the battles of Lexington and Concord, everything changed. Morris's first election was as a delegate to the Continental Congress in November 1775. The next year, he joined the majority of the Pennsylvania delegates who opposed Lee's calls for independence. Morris's thought was that it was premature, and his partner, who was a delegate himself, Thomas, was also against independence. Now, on July 1st, Congress voted on independence and failed. Pennsylvania's vote was against it. Morris, Willing, John Dickinson, Charles Humphreys, and John Morton voted no. Wilson and Franklin voted yes. But Morris saw the writing on the wall. He wouldn't vote for independence, but he wouldn't stand in its way either. When the vote came up the next day, Morris and Dickinson walked out of the room. Now, this enabled Franklin, Wilson, and, after a change of heart, Morton to override Humphreys and Willing's votes. Pennsylvania's vote was in favor of independence. Morris also abstained on July 4th when the Declaration of Independence was passed. Much to Morris's surprise, the Pennsylvania legislature re-elected him to Congress later that month, and on August 2nd, he signed the Declaration of Independence. Morris explained his decision to continue service in a letter a short time later. Quote, "I think that an individual who declines the service of his country because its counsels are not comfortable to his ideas makes but a bad subject. A good one will follow if he cannot lead." But Morris even went as far as apologizing the following year for not having supported the idea of independence earlier. Late in 1776, the British invaded New Jersey. Congress fled to Baltimore but left Morris, George Clymer, and George Walton behind to conduct business, which meant aiding armies during that time of war. Now, Washington needed supplies to conduct a counterattack, and the only person he could rely on was Morris, who is said to have received a letter from the general written while camped out on the banks of the Delaware. Morris supposedly got a commitment for a large sum which would be used for gunpowder, lead for bullets, arms, and clothing from a wealthy Quaker acquaintance he ran into on the street. The supplies arrived in time to enable Washington to perform his daring 1776 Christmas Eve attack and achieve victory across the Delaware River at Trenton, New Jersey. Victory and supplies were linked, and Morris was the one to thank. Every time Washington needed cash, Morris managed to find it, even if it came from his own savings. It's said that Morris gave as much as $1 million of his own money to fund the Yorktown campaign alone. In early 1779, Henry Laurens, the president of Congress at the time, accused Morris of profiting from the war by shipping his own merchandise under the guise of government shipping expeditions. A committee investigated the issue, and Laurens had to proclaim Morris's innocence before Congress. Now, Robert Morris continued throughout the war to secure funds for the fight by using his own finances as security. In fact, his credit was better than Congress's credit, and it came in handy in the summer of 1781 as Washington made plans to attack the British under Lord Cornwallis in Virginia. Morris issued notes to purchase ammunition and other supplies. He even loaned his home to Washington to use as headquarters as he marched toward Yorktown and a victory that would bring the war to a close. Morris's largesse did not come without a personal price. As the superintendent of finance under the Articles of Confederation, he faced high inflation, worthless continental currency, and a national government that had no way to raise money. To that pressure was also added his own stretching credit. He wrote in October of 1782, quote, "My credit has already been on the brink of ruin. If that goes, all is gone." Now, one of his solutions was to establish the Bank of North America to lend money to the United States. He served in the position over finances until 1784. As a delegate at the Constitutional Convention in 1787, he nominated Washington as the convention's president. After the Constitution had been ratified and Washington was elected as the nation's first president, Morris turned down Washington's offer to be the first Secretary of Treasury. Instead, he served in the Senate from 1789 to 95. In 1790, when the capital of the country moved from New York City to Philadelphia, Morris's home became Washington's presidential mansion. Like other prominent Americans, Morris speculated by buying up lands on the American frontier. His first two forays into land speculation brought him huge returns, but his financial luck began to run out when he investigated a large sum in millions of acres in 5 states in what would become Washington, D.C. When the Napoleonic Wars caused immigration to dry up, demand for unsettled land dried up too, and the value of Morris's land investment dropped severely. In a nutshell, he owed more in mortgage and taxes than the land was worth in a sale, or to put it in terms of a 21st century mortgage crisis, he was beyond upside down. To pay off his debts, he had to sell everything, all the houses, the properties, even his furniture. He wrote, quote, "My money is gone. My furniture is to be sold. I am to go to prison and my family to starve." There were no federal bailouts at the time, even for the wealthy, so despite all he'd given to fund the revolution, on February 16, 1798, he was escorted from his country estate to Philadelphia, where he was officially arrested and sent to Prune Street debtor's prison. Ironically, it was only a block away from where he had signed the Declaration of Independence. Washington visited Morris in that first year of confinement and had dinner with him in prison. They would, unfortunately, never meet again as Washington died the next year while Morris was still jailed. Robert tried to meet his lot with courage, writing to his son Thomas, quote, "A man that cannot hear and face misfortune should not run risks. But I have been too adventurous, and therefore it's my duty to meet my fate and fortitude, and I do it." His reprieve came in 1800 when Congress passed the nation's first bankruptcy law. He got out of jail on August 26, 1801. His debts were about $3 million, but by December he was cleared of it all under the new law. On May 8, 1806, at the age of 72 years old, Robert Morris passed away. Now, Robert Morris and Roger Sherman were the only two people to sign the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution. And that is this week's Profiles in History. How about that? That guy is absolutely I'm telling you, the people that put themselves on the line and are, as he puts it, a man that cannot hear and face misfortune should not run risks. Hot damn, here's a dude that puts up his own money to help finance the war for independence, gives up his own home for the president to have a place to stay. I mean, good Lord. Nobody these days would ever do that.
Question.
What's the question?
3 million?
No, that's 3 million of that period's money. So we're talking one heck of a large amount of money. That's pudding brains right there. Doctor Who reference for your refill. Okay. Unfortunately, we will not get to our last story as we are almost out of time. I'm checking the time. I'm trying to stay on track. I think I'm doing really good tonight. But unfortunately, I'm not going to get to this one. I tell you what, I'll try and get it. Where did that other one? That one? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to set these off to the side and work on those and get them posted on staffordvoice.com for your reading pleasure later this week. Also with the those that the other one that I teased you with, Blood and Virtue, over on Instagram. You guys are gonna love this. It's what? It's on Facebook. They're on Facebook as well. Mm-hmm. You already looked? Mm-hmm. Hot dang! Wow, amazing! Not really. Amazing. Okay. Anyway, yes. Many who fought and won the revolution lost everything. Slick, couldn't agree with you more. And I think with us talking about these guys and really highlighting just what they did, really brings things into perspective. It really, really does. Completely mind blown what they were willing to do and what they did. Anyway, that horrendous sound was the sound that we have to shut things down. Maybe move on to an after the show. It won't be very long because we will probably likely run into an overdose of conservatism again, as we did last week, where the liberal police shut us down. That's what we're going to claim. Nothing other than just too much power for this terminal to run, try and run everything. We're working on things on the back end, trying to figure out how to make it a little more streamlined. Anyway, enough of that boring stuff. Look, I want to remind you that's unfortunately all the time we've got for this week. But if you missed anything, please go back, listen to it again. I know I asked a lot. We want to send out some prayers to those of you, of our friends and family that are listening. Ron and Slick, you are in our prayers, as is everyone else. Also, I really am interested in your guys' feedback of how we can try and consolidate everything during the show, and so that way those from Facebook and those from YouTube can talk to each other. Maybe it requires you downloading an app, and if you're willing to do that, great. But please let me know, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or Twitters or whatever. That is all the time we have for this week. God willing, the Stafford Voice will be back next week. You can follow me over on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. You can look me up on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're at, by looking for The Stafford Voice. Email your questions, comments, or concerns to thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time tonight, friends and family. Until next week, thanks, and God bless.